1 year ago, Apple promised a feature with the Vision Pro, but did it deliver? And where does it stand in the rapidly evolving AR space? This product might be Apple's most hyped releases with its biggest downfall. When it first came out, everyone was trying it in the Apple stores, using it out in public, and overnight it disappeared. In the past year, AR and VR have seen some major shifts, like Meta announcing new glasses, now Samsung stepping into the game, and more companies making lighter and more cheaper alternatives. But let's take a step back and see what problem was the Vision Pro trying to solve. Most VR headsets are made for gaming, but you really can't game on the Vision Pro. Instead, Apple marketed this as a productivity tool. It's packing the M2 chip, the same one found in the MacBooks, but the issue is you can install Mac apps into the Vision Pro. For someone like me, my creative workflow depends on Adobe, Premiere for video and Photoshop for photo editing, and none of these work on the Vision Pro. Even Apple's own Final Cut is not supported in the Vision Pro. But sure, you can project your MacBook into a big floating window, but at that point, it's just an expensive monitor. So if it is not for gaming or productivity, is it like an Apple Watch, like an accessory? At least the Apple Watch makes life easier, tracking workouts, showing notifications, and of course, telling time. But what does the Vision Pro do to improve your life? When I first tried on the Vision Pro, I was genuinely impressed. Even before borrowing it, I went to the Apple Store to watch the Weeknd's Open Hearts music video, and every time when I put it on, it just puts a smile on my face. Seeing like the real world and the digital world like blend together seamlessly is just really cool. But that excitement faded away really quickly because I just found myself looking at the real world through the digital world because I couldn't find anything to do on the Vision Pro. Since I couldn't game or work on it, my next instinct was go to YouTube because that's where I live, eat, breathe now. And it doesn't even have its own app. You have to go through Safari. And watching videos on a massive floating screen was wild. But for some reason, it didn't feel like as big as I expected, so I had to lean in physically to make the window bigger and more immersive. And because I had to constantly scroll to find something new, I found the navigation to be frustrating. The gestures are great when you know what you're watching, but when you don't know and just trying to find something new, it's just clunky and slow. Watching movies though, that's where it shines. Watching a movie on a big floating screen, it feels really immersive, and especially turning on an environment is a cherry on top. And also you can lay down and watch a movie on a big screen, that's also really cool. But is that enough to justify the price tag? Now I want to talk about my experience when I tried on the Meta Quest 3S. Remind you, it's only a $300 headset. When I tried it, I didn't get the same wow factor, but I also felt like I didn't miss anything. I watched an immersive Coachella performance by Sabrina. It's only on the Meta Quest, and that was super cool. It felt like she was literally standing right in front of you. But more importantly, I never had that now what moment with the Quest 3. The Quest 3's home menu is very messy, which is kind of a good thing because there's always a game, an app, and interactive content. You can always find something to do. Unlike the Vision Pro, it's just bubbles everywhere. You're constantly clicking new buttons and exploring new content. I also watched some YouTube videos on the Quest 3. It wasn't as clear as the Vision Pro because of the display resolution on each screen, but it really didn't feel like any different. But other than that, the interactiveness and the experience was almost the same. Now let's be real, the Quest 3's hardware doesn't come close to the Vision Pro. The Vision Pro screen is the sharpest I've seen, the speakers are great, and the build quality is solid. Like, really solid. It is incredibly heavy. Not even after 10 minutes of use, it feels like someone is pressing down on your face, especially your cheeks. There are other brands that make a better head strap that takes all that weight off of you and puts it in your head, but it's still way too heavy for what it should be. It's way better than this flimsy thing. If I cannot wear it for long enough and be productive, what's the point? And this is not a Vision Pro review, it has been out for a year. So what's changed? Since launch, visionOS has received some major updates, improving Control Center, Mac virtual displays, and adding the shared spaces. Apple originally marketed this as a productivity tool, but features that made it productive weren't even ready at launch. The Mac virtual display is the only feature that feels game-changing. In my setup, I use two displays. I have the MacBook at the bottom and I have a 24-inch display at at the top. But with the Vision Pro, you can have a massive, nearly 180-inch ultra-wide setup. You can fit 3 full-size windows side by side, and turning on the environments is a cherry on top. If there's one feature that justifies the Vision Pro, it's the Mac virtual displays. Apple clearly didn't build this for gaming. While technically you can install iPad games and use the Xbox controller and do a workaround that way, but it's not a real solution. But I think there is a Fruit Ninja game that kind of barely works. You have to like chop it with your hand. The hand tracking is too imperfect for gaming. You need more precise controllers like the Quest has. And let's be honest, no gamer's dropping 4 bands on a VR headset that can barely play games. So what is the point of the Vision Pro? I asked my friends the same question. What is the purpose of the Vision Pro? And this is their answers. So I got my friend here, Jace. Why don't we start off with introducing yourself?
Hey, what's up, guys? My name is Jace Sparks. I'm the Chief Product Officer, or as you know, probably just the chief nerd of a media global conglomerate, right? And I'm here to talk nerd stuff with my buddy Denis. And what's up, man? What's going on?
Good, good. How are you? So I want to start off with
man.
dream. Starting off with the first question, as a Vision Pro owner, what was the first reason you bought the Vision Pro for?
Boredom, literally boredom, and probably you're looking for like a deeper reason, but the truth is like innovation has been very stagnant within the Apple ecosystem for many years, right? It's just been Apple, iPhone upgrade after iPhone upgrade, iPad upgrade after iPad upgrade, and there hasn't really been anything that's been transformative for the company since I would say the Apple Watch. And I looked at this new vertical for them, pushing more into augmented reality, and I got really excited about it because I myself am a programmer. I know how to make iOS apps, and more specifically, I know how to program in Swift UI. And I just thought it'd be really cool to be able to make these immersive apps for the first time, whereas I don't really understand Oculus and what's going in the Meta ecosystem. And I was like, this is a more accessible way for me to get more involved within AR. So that's the real reason.
Yeah, it makes more sense to dive into the new world with the things you're already familiar with. What do you think the purpose of this device is?
So, controversial take. I believe that this first device isn't for retail consumers. I actually think this is a beta, a massive beta that they're putting it out into the world for Apple to really investigate what's possible with this technology. And I can articulate that for a couple of simple reasons. One, it's too big, it's too heavy, and the battery itself and how it's attached to the device isn't optimal. And their competition is steep, right? You have devices like Meta View, right, which have done a partnership with Ray-Ban, where it's more of an AI-enabled device. It doesn't have any necessarily HUD integration. So I would say the purpose of this particular Vision entrant is a beta. That being said, I do believe that once we push into something like Vision 2 and Vision 3 more specifically, because if you look historically at all Apple devices, right, we can even go back to the iPhone. The original iPhone was awesome and it was revolutionary, especially with a touch screen, but it didn't really come into its own till like the 4th model, right? iPhone 4. iPhone 4 is generally considered to be like the first pure iPhone because everything worked. They figured out stuff with the antenna issues. Obviously, it had access to 3G at that point, so the communication technology was better. A lot of people don't remember, but you couldn't send pictures on the original iPhone, right? That came later. So even though it was an internet communications device, it didn't have full accessibility to the internet. And so, yeah, I generally believe that the Apple Vision ecosystem is in its infancy stage, and we won't see it grow up until it hits Vision 2 and Vision 3.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like a beta version of what's going to happen in the future. How many times did you use the device, or did you use it as Apple intended?
That's a fair question. So when it first came out, I was using it every day, and then work got in the way. And I generally am a pro user of all of my technologies, whether it be an iPad or it be a MacBook Pro. I utilize these devices to the maximum ability. And I kind of fell off of it for a little bit because the technology, mainly the software, wasn't there yet. And I'll give you a couple examples. When Vision first came out, it didn't have the ability to do widescreen, right? It was more just a traditional like 16 by 9 screen. So I couldn't get enough real estate to do things that I'm normally familiar with, whether it be tethering to my computer and doing stuff like editing in, Final Cut Pro or coding. And so I just didn't have the real estate that I needed, as well as some of the apps, their native functionality wasn't there yet. Fast forward to today, and I'm using it more often. I would say I'm using it once to twice a week. And I travel a lot, and I realized that this is the best hobbyist device that's ever been invented, because it's complete integration within the Apple ecosystem using messages, Apple TV, and all these other things that are tethered to your personal identity. It makes it so easy to utilize when you're traveling. And let me tell you, the first time you go immersion on a plane, it just totally reveals how powerful this device actually is.
Like given a normal immersion in a room, it is just something. It literally transforms you to that space. It's really cool when I tried it out. What are your thoughts when you use the device? Good, bad, any impressions?
So the device to me is incredible. I love everything about it. I think it's way too early. I think it's way ahead of its time. And that's why I said earlier that I believe that we're still in what I call like a general public beta of the device, because it's missing a lot of things, right? And these aren't negatives. Like most people say, these are cons. I actually don't see them as cons. I see them as growing pains, right? And it's mainly due to the weight of wearing the device for longer than, I would say, an hour. Like it does have some basic neck strain. The battery life is only 2 hours. And my biggest gripe, which is small and it's very niche and targeted at me, is it's not really made yet for programming. As a programmer, I want to be able to program natively on the device with things like a Swift UI, right? I can't actually make iOS apps on the Vision Pro, which seems kind of counterintuitive because it's like excluded out of the ecosystem. You still have to be relying on a MacBook Pro to do that. And if you want to do stuff like Visual Studio is a major IDE or program tool that a lot of us programmers use, and that's not natively available on the Vision Pro. So if you want to use something like Vision Pro, you have to tunnel in using a web browser, or you have to tether to your Mac. So TLDR, it's just shy of being a perfect device, but I do see where it could become perfect, and that's mitigating some weight issues, increasing the battery life, giving it probably a smaller profile because it is a little bulky, and increasing more native apps that would make it more of a pro device.
Yeah, I also mentioned that in my video too. It was they marketed as a productivity tool, but you can't really be productive because it doesn't support anything. Like even for me, video editing, you can't do any video. For you, it's coding, and I just learned that it doesn't support Swift UI. But you have to do everything to your Mac or and project your screen to the Vision Pro for a wider monitor. So for my fourth question, where do you think the future of AR and more specifically Vision Pro is heading? Do you have any
Okay.
expectations in the future?
Oh yeah, 100%. It's mainly due to batteries, right? Battery technology needs to get better. At the end of the day, that's going to be the limiting factor for everything from EVs to just technology, small form technology like the Vision Pro or the Meta Ray Bans, things like that. So I obviously think it's going to have a smaller form factor. I generally believe that the processor is going to get better, meaning that object recognition is going to be just flawless. And there's this thing that I like to talk about with people about like latency in general, right? So a lot of people are operating on the mindset that latency is always going to remain just kind of the same. But we're in a world where we're essentially developing new internet tools that have created like the ways of internet traffic. So I don't know if you know this, but whenever you make a call to the internet, it literally goes from server to server to server to server to server. And it's kind of like a mishmash of how it gets to its location until it finally arrives at its location destination, and it gets that information and it returns it back to you, and it has to go through a myriad of different ways. Well, the reason why this is important is latency is decreasing because we've essentially developed these tools to make the most efficient traveling route of the internet, and it's now distilling down into all these devices. And how is that relevant to Vision Pro and other devices? Well, if you start enabling these pipelines that are faster, you're going to have the better opportunity to do object recognition in real time translations, where you don't necessarily are reliant on onboard LLMs like OpenAI or Hugging Face or all these other tools, but you'll have the ability to immerse yourself in AR that legitimately feels like a layer on top of a layer, where you'll essentially feel like you're exploring these alternate realities, where you're stepping through like the Lion, Witch, and the Wardrobe. You're stepping through the wardrobe, man. You're in alternate realities that are imprinted on the existing reality that you live within, and that's what Vision Pro will enable. So if you have an avatar, let's say you're really into Dragon Ball Z and you see yourself as Goku, you'll be able to present yourself as Goku to every single person that you meet, and they'll see that in real time, where your movements will be reflected, that your hair will be oscillating if you're a Super Saiyan, etc. So TLDR, AR is just going to further embed itself onto our world, where it's going to be more native, and you'll not only be able to represent yourself to people that are wearing AR, but you'll be able to discover new realities around you at all times.
Just creating more virtual spaces
Oh
on the
yeah.
headset, and like just a virtual world.
Yeah, I mean,
I think we do have
like
something similar in the Quest, don't we?
we do, and this isn't just a Vision Pro native thing, right? I'm going to be very clear on this. This is going to be like a universal tool that will be accessible to everyone, and the limiting factor is internet. It really is. It's just like the internet pipes are too small and they're not efficient enough to deliver these things. Because as you know, 3D models are huge, right? Those are huge files, right? So if you have the ability to receive 3D models, like, and not just one, but multitudes, like hundreds, maybe even thousands in one frame at a time, and it's maintaining 60 frames per second, and it's all mapped to all things around you, right? Like, that's going to be a reality that we'll be able to achieve, I would say, literally within the next 4 to 5 years.
Just we need to make the internet faster.
The internet has to be faster. Yeah.
The last question: what do you think the second version of the Vision Pro should fix and improve? I think you kind of did mention it, but
If I had to fix one thing, is it needs more native applications, because at the end of the day, right, applications are what generate user adoption. A lot of people think that the iPhone was enough, but it really wasn't. What was enough was Facebook. Facebook, the application, is what got people to start really going into the app ecosystem, exploring mobile usage. And to give you more, right, there's a battle that you may be old enough to remember, you may not, but there was a battle between Facebook and MySpace. And what ultimately won that battle was Facebook was mobile optimized. They made their application essentially function the best that it could on an iPhone, right? And that like generally took social media adoption parabolic. That was the deciding factor. So Apple has been doing something very successful and very well, which is they've cultivated an incredible vertical stack. All right, we have to talk about this vertical stack real quick for this to really make sense, which is they've really, really tripled down on their developer ecosystem. And they even have an event called Worldwide Developer Conference they have every year, where they unveil all of their software technology, all of the new features that are available to Xcode users, as well as they give lectures on how to best utilize their software stack. So they're cultivating at all times, not only, old developers that have existed within their ecosystem, but they're investing in new developers all the way down to rural areas, investing in, all sorts of ways into the developer ecosystem. And so what's going to happen is they're going to triple down on Vision OS, and they're going to cultivate these native apps. They're going to make the apps better. And as the apps get better, then the more consumers are going to come into the ecosystem, and then they can start focusing on the other things I talked about, which, if you remember iPad 2 was not much different from iPad 1. But one killer feature that everybody wanted was the ability to turn the iPad off just by closing the cover. And that's where the Smart Folio came from. So you'll see like basic aesthetics in Vision 2 that will basically mimic that. That will be like kind of the roadmap, is like they'll have like, okay, maybe they'll make the battery smaller. They'll make the cord longer. They'll make some like basic aesthetic things. But the big thing they're going to focus on is the operating system and increasing the memory within the system to facilitate new things.
so I mean, they need to do something to even bring the price down than to,
Oh yeah.
I feel like that's the main. It doesn't have native apps, but if they bring the price down, I feel like people will buy the Vision Pro just because it's Apple and the Vision Pro quality. But as you
I
said,
agree with
there's not
that.
much native apps to even use the device. Because even like when I put it on, it's really cool for like 5-10 minutes, and then I'm just looking at the real world through my glasses because there's nothing much to do. That was
Yeah.
my experience.
Well, something that I'm really excited about, and Apple does have a patent on this, is their eye tracking technology. Their eye tracking technology is ridiculous, and they have a patent. That's a patented thing, right? Apple owns that technology. That is only going to get better, and that's only going to become more intuitive. And what's crazy is you're essentially going to start operating in a mindset where your thoughts can control peripherals, your thoughts can control action, and that is only going to get better.
And even recently with the iPhone, the Apple released iPhone 16e, which I see they could do like a Vision Pro E or like Vision Pro Lite or Plus. So they will name something
Vision Pro
to
Plus, that'd be interesting.
Vision
I'd
Pro
be into
Plus.
it.
That will be funny.
Yeah, they get rid of the headband, the knit headband, and it's just a strap. You know,
Just
they put a
or
Nike
sell
logo on it.
separately, or sell separately.
Yeah, so yeah, they love to do that. Battery not included,
Better
right?
not
No
included.
power,
Yeah.
no power brick. Like just
Okay.
they don't
No
care
cable,
anymore.
just the glasses. Just get that.
But yeah, man, price is going to come down, and I mean that has to everything to do with supply chain, manufacturing strategy. I mean, I look at how Tesla makes their cars, right, with the gigapress, right? The gigapress technology is so insane, and it essentially, outputs their vehicles as one solid piece of aluminum, and it makes manufacturing so much easier for them. And generally, what happens in all these manufacturing processes, whether it be iPhone or anything like that, they get better at that process. They get better at sourcing materials, and so yeah, price will naturally come down. And not to mention, Apple's making a huge investment into emerging markets like India, where labor there is a lot cheaper. And as those plants start to come online, I imagine that all their products universally will probably come down in price. Well, it's almost iPhone season again, so ready for
Yeah,
the
it's
update.
dub season.
It's dub dub. I'm ready for dub dub. Ready
I
for
know. What do
dub
you
dub.
expect?
The
Don't say
rumor
Apple
is,
Intelligence.
well, I mean, that's a sore subject right now. They just replaced their lead of Apple Intelligence. Like he's out.
Oh,
He's
they
not
did.
out, but they replaced him. Yeah, so he didn't get fired, but he got rotated out of Apple Intelligence. They
Hmm.
brought in, funny enough, they brought in the head of Vision Pro to replace the head of Apple Intelligence, and they moved the old head of Apple Intelligence to just basically AI initiatives.
Oh, I did not know that.
It
Well,
happened, I
that
think, yesterday.
hmm
Yeah,
yesterday.
it's
Oh, it's
crazy.
new news. Uh-huh.
Very fresh.
Just even add up to the dub dub. What do you think on the Vision OS 2? Or sorry, do we have two or is it going to be three?
We have to. We have to. We're
We
going to
have two. It's
three.
going to be three.
So I think they're going to really try to get Mac integration more dialed in, right? Because right now you can't do dual screens, which doesn't really matter because you have the ability to do widescreen. So I think we're going to see more natural handoff between the Mac and the Vision. I If I'm very hopeful, I think they're going to make a major swing and try to find a way to get Xcode onto the Vision Pro or some sort of IDE on the Vision Pro. Getting something as simple as Visual Studio Code, just like calling up Microsoft, being like, "Hey guys, we need your help on this," which they have historically worked together before. I have to imagine that their partnerships team is reaching out to game companies, to studios, to anything that is a content creator, whether it be applications, content, as in like video, short form, or even content creators in general, and just really going for those partnerships and be like, hey, we'll give you a grant to develop on our platform. So I think we're going to see some tier one partnerships, and that will be the focus of the event for Vision Pro. And I'm going to make a prediction that'll be 2 or 3. We'll see 2 to 3 major partnerships that will really like encourage people to want to come onto the platform. Because as you know, Google is not on the platform. Like you can't watch YouTube natively.
No, exactly. No YouTube app. No, I don't think there's a Google Meet, which there's a couple people, and the person that I borrowed the Vision Pro for uses the Vision Pro for Zoom meetings, and I don't think you could do that with the Vision Pro on Google Meet.
Yeah, the whole Google ecosystem went. They went nah. They just went nah, not doing it.
We're just waiting for the Samsung.
Yeah, just waiting for Samsung. We're gonna go for it.
That was all the questions I had to ask. Thank you for coming to my video.
Love that. Well, thanks for having me, man. Yeah, I've never actually spoken to you outside of a chat window, so this is
exactly.
This is great.
I know we met in 2020 on a Twitch chat window. Now here we are.
Here we are, man. Look how far we've come.
Exactly. From what iPhone 11 till Vision Pro, or now 16.
Dude, that's so crazy. Yeah.
On one hand, we have someone that uses a device every day for productivity and for their work. And on the other hand, we have someone that uses the device every other day or just for fun. We can clearly see that it's not meant for everybody. It feels like the Vision Pro is a technological masterpiece that is stuck inside of an identity crisis. The hardware is insanely good, but the use case just isn't there. We've established that it's not a gaming device and it's barely a productivity device standalone. And as an entertainment device, it's just too expensive and impractical for everyday use. The battery maxes out in 2 hours, it's too heavy to wear for long periods of time, and right now the Vision Pro feels more of a luxury experiment, the beta of what Apple's AR VR future can be instead of solving true everyday problems. Maybe Vision 2 or Vision Pro 2 will be lighter, cheaper, and actually useful. What do you think? Is AR the future or just another marketing hype? Let me know down in the comments and like and subscribe for more.